thesprayvandals.com for all your graffiti needs. Use discount code UFO. What happens when a graffiti toy thinks he can take over his local city with a bunch of the same tags without planning ahead? He gets named, shamed, and done for. For more than a year of relentless investigation by the cops, they finally made a significant breakthrough in a case that had baffled both law enforcement and local residents. The suspect, a young man responsible for over 101 reports of graffiti incidences, was taken into custody. This particular case, which had grown to represent a growing issue with graffiti within this particular city, had spanned numerous neighborhoods, parking garages, churches, and even public monuments throughout both the downtown area and its outer suburbs. The arrest marked the end of a long pursuit, but it also set the stage for a long story of redemption, accountability, and a troubled young man caught in the crossroads between rebellion and consequence. The investigation had begun when city officials noticed a pattern in the growing number of graffiti reports, especially with this particular graffiti tag. What made this case particularly unique was this particular graffiti tag, which was found at more than 26 different locations across this city. The tag, a chaotic blend of crap, they'd call it. And even within the graffiti scene, people would say, "This guy is a toy," had become an unwelcome signature across this city. Local residents and businesses began to grow frustrated with the constant defacement of their properties, and the complaints were flooding into the city. As this graffiti toy continued his rampage, the city's police force ramped up efforts to catch this particular person. They actually even had a little detective team to work on it, piecing together all the little places where they've seen this tag, and they even started pulling video surveillance footage from all the buildings they could get it from. They actually began to notice that the graffiti appeared in a certain pattern, often showing up late at night, of course, or early in the morning. They also noted that some of the graffiti appeared in areas that would suggest that the person who was doing this graffiti had a certain level of familiarity with the city, especially parking garages and back of alleys that are close to the residential side of the city. In August, after carefully tracking the movements of this suspect using a combination of surveillance footage, eyewitness accounts, and the distinctive nature of this graffiti, authorities were able to narrow down their suspect. A search warrant for the suspect's home was granted, and the investigators actually raided his home, which is pretty crazy because this guy is just literally putting up tags, even though it's not really a nice tag. He wasn't hitting trains, he wasn't doing anything big pieces, wasn't doing anything like that. But of course, they stumbled across some spray cans and a bunch of other tools commonly used in graffiti, even though this kid only really used 1 or 2 colors of spray paint. They also found a photo of this graffiti toy posing next to one of his tags, which is pretty much a slam dunk in there eyes. But you could definitely tell that this kid didn't really do graffiti for the love of graffiti. He was kind of doing it as a way to kind of show off. And even one local resident that seemed to know a little bit about graffiti, even he had grown a bit tired of the constant defacement. This isn't even graffiti in the real sense of graffiti. It's just a graffiti toy trying to show off and express his ego. The term toy in the graffiti world is often used to describe someone who lacks true artistic skill and uses graffiti more for self look at me kind of thing, instead of it being a meaningful expression. It seemed that the suspect's desire for attention had driven him to leave his mark on as many surfaces as possible. Because if you guys didn't know, a lot of graffiti writers generally wouldn't touch certain things that he tagged on. So mind you, this kid's only 17 years old, whose identity never was actually put public due to his age. He was arrested once the cops raided his house. They had enough evidence on him to take him in. Upon his arrest, investigators charged him with criminal mischief and institutional vandalism, along with other charges in connection with the over 101 graffiti tags. According to the police, there were over 101 separate counts against him. One of the police even stated they are not just random acts of teenage rebellion. This is a pattern, and we've been able to identify this individual through his repeated actions. There was actually 26 total victims, and the amount of damage that this kid caused was about 30 grand in total. He even also noted that if this was just some random kid doing a couple tags here and there, we wouldn't really have pursued it, but because because this kid was persistent and he was hitting a lot of famous landmarks, we really had to crack down on it. Before the investigation finished, a theory emerged about the suspect's potential involvement in the crimes. Investigators speculated that the suspect often traveled with his father into the downtown area, where they would go out late at night, exploring the city's empty streets. While they suspected that the father may have known about his son's activities, there was no evidence to suggest that he was actively participating in the vandalism with him. The father was not charged, and the police continued to focus their efforts on the young suspect. Despite the significant property damage, the suspect's age plays a critical role in how the case was actually handled. Because he was under 18, the police made it clear that he would not be charged as an adult. These are juvenile allegations, and as such, this case will proceed through the juvenile justice system. The decision to keep the case within the juvenile system was met with mixed reactions. While some felt that the severity of the damage warranted harsher consequences, others felt that the suspect, being so young, could still be steered towards a better path. Though they did reveal that he had been cooperative throughout the investigation. He actually admitted to all his crimes and expressed remorse for his actions. And in a surprising twist, the young man even offered to assist in the clean-up process, volunteering to help remove the graffiti he had created all across the city. This raised questions about the true motives behind his actions. Obviously, he got very scared since he got caught and really wanted to just make up for it. The police said the plan was for this particular case is being held accountable, and he was held accountable. We want to ensure that this young person had an opportunity to learn from his mistakes. Officials began discussing the broader implications of the arrest. The city's mayor, in a statement following the suspect's apprehension, expressed hope that the case could serve as a lesson to other would-be vandals. The city's residents began to debate whether more should be done to offer outlets for young people to channel their creativity in ways that did not harm public property. The courts, too, were prepared for the next steps. Officials hoped that the case would serve as an example to other graffiti writers, showing them that their actions would not go unnoticed, and that eventually they would be caught. As the case moved forward through the juvenile justice system, the question remained, would this young man emerge from the experience with a changed perspective, or would he continue down the path of defiance and destruction? This didn't really do much. It inspired a bunch more graffiti to be done. Even though this particular kid never really got back into graffiti, it kind of inspired other graffiti writers to go harder within the city. So if anything, they temporarily stopped one graffiti toy putting up his tags all over this city, but it kind of egged on the actual graffiti scene to actually do some decent stuff and make a big impact. So did this story really make much of a difference for this particular city that this is happening in? Yes and no. And the world of graffiti keeps turning. They got to realize that graffiti is never going to die. You can temporarily slow it down or stop it for a very short period of time, but it's just going to come back. There's a very, very small handful of you guys that listen or watch all the way to the end. So if you're listening to this right now, thank you so much. You are a legend. Leave a comment saying framed photograph if you're listening to this right now.